Okay, if I may, we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. It's 5:15, so that's the time we need to get things rolling. This is the April 10th, 2014 meeting of the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. My name's Chris Jordan. I am the Vice Chairman of the Commission. I'll be chairing tonight. Our chairman is off working for us this evening, and so I'll be stepping in. I will let, if we could, we'll go around and let everyone introduce ourselves. We'll start with our councilman.
Rick Mihalovich, Council Liaison.
Jack Deacon.
Mike Lester.
Bob George.
Dale Vaughn.
Dave Nunn.
Bunny Tricky Cotton.
Dean Dutoy.
Ron Fitzwater. Shane Wade, city staff.
And Eric Barron, city staff.
Janice McMillan, Director of Planning and Protective Services.
Jeremy Cover, Law Department.
Did we already get Shane? Okay. Procedural matters. The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. The alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of a regular member. A quorum of 5 member or alternates is necessary to conduct business. We do have a quorum this evening. The following regular members are absent: our chairman, Ralph Robinette, Chris Yarnell, and Kevin Thanen. Do we have any members who will be disqualifying themselves tonight from any agenda item? I see none. The voting members are as followed: Jack Deacon, Dean Dutoy, Bob George, Michael Lester, Dave Nunn, Dale Vaughn, Bonnie Tricky Cotton, and Ron Fitzwater. Next, we will call for cases. If you would, just stand and say you're here to represent that case. We'll move forward and then come back with you. But the only case we have tonight is case number P14006, 3550 Country Club Drive. It's an amended preliminary PUD plan. Do we have someone here to represent that?
Yes, sir. Bill Brunner from Paradigm Design.
Okay.
Keith Thomas, Goodrich Theaters.
Bob Wilkins, Theater Manager.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll be back with you in just a minute. We do have some okay. Receive and review requests for continuance. Any reason we have a continuance this evening? Want to move forward tonight with your request, gentlemen? Okay. Eric, if you would, please read the format of the hearing and testimony.
Thank you. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the Planning Commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so I ask that when you speak, please step to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. After a brief introduction by city staff, the applicant and applicant's consultants and advisors will explain the project. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes. The applicant shall be given 3 additional minutes for closing testimony if so requested. We will then ask to hear from any supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from any opponents of the request. And we will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. And the testimony from supporters, opponents, or other interested parties shall be limited to 3 minutes, and rebuttal testimony limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is granted by the Commission. And city staff will then describe the proposal and make their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including the staff reports, applicable findings, ordinances, and our statutes, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the Commission. And the Commission will then close testimony from the floor. And the Commission will then discuss the proposal and then make a motion on the request. The form of the motion shall be positive, that is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. And a final vote will then be taken, ayes in favor and nays opposed. And the chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. And the following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the city code as amended, the comprehensive plan and land use map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, the staff reports, the minutes of proceedings, letters, photos, memoranda, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, and the rules of procedure for the Jefferson City, Missouri Planning and Zoning Commission. These items are public record and are available for inspection at the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. And please be advised that any items that are presented or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration this evening become property of the Planning Commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, renderings, petitions, and letters.
Thank you, Eric. We need to have an adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed? I have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I guess we need a second. Sorry.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. You all have a copy of the minutes from our last meeting of March 13th. Has everyone had an opportunity to look over those? Give you just a second to do that again. And if you have anything you need changed or amended, please let us know. If not, when someone's ready, we will move forward.
We approve the minutes as submitted.
Can I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. We do have some communication this evening. I believe we have 2 letters of correspondence. One letter from Pat and Doug Thomas at 3444 Thomas Lane, as well as Mrs. Don Riley at 3448 Hobbs Lane. All of that correspondence has been provided to you all this evening. So I suggest that we look through that and see if there's anything that we need to address. Move on to new business. We will now start case P14006, 3550 Country Club Drive, an amended preliminary PUD plan. Eric, do you have some information for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, to orient you to the location of this request. Up on the screen is a location map with the zoning also shown on the map. This is the Capitol Mall off of West Truman Boulevard and Country Club Drive. And the subject property is located basically to the rear of the Capitol Mall. It is the Capitol 8 Theaters. The request is for an amendment to a preliminary PUD plan. This property is zoned mostly PUD. There is some C1 neighborhood commercial zoning on the property as well. But it is, the building is certainly within the PUD zone portion of the property. And their proposed development is subject to the regulations regarding planned unit developments. Some of the surrounding zoning districts include the RS1 single-family residential district, basically to the southeast and also to the east. To the north is the Jefferson City YMCA. Metro Business College is occupying a few buildings, and then Lighthouse Academy, which is a private school, and then of course the Capitol Mall. The request is for a building addition, and here I have an air photo showing the theater building and parking lot that serves the theater. Behind the theater is a wooded area that is separated from the theater by basically a drainage way through there. The request is for a building addition on the south side of the theater that would look roughly like that. Be slightly offset from the rest of the theater, and the purpose is to construct an additional theater to turn the Capitol 8 into the Capitol 9 theaters. The addition consists of about 8,200 square feet. Along with the building addition, the company is planning some renovations both to the exterior of the building and also the interior of the building, which is noted within the narrative of the PUD application, which is in your packets. This includes installing stadium-style seating and the existing 8 theaters. With the stadium seating, there's actually a reduction in the number of seats in the theater in the existing ones. So when doing seat counts, the additional seats in the new theater are offset by removal of seating capacity in the other theaters. So basically, there's no impact on parking. The parking requirement or difference is negligible. This is, up on the screen, is one page that's in your packet. Out of the several pages that were submitted by the applicant that are considered the PUD plan, I think it's about an 8-page set of engineering drawings. This is the one that I think shows the drawing, or shows the proposal the best. Basically shows the theater addition onto the existing theater. And then also there are some stormwater utilities that are in the area that have to be relocated. And it's worth noting that the proposal also includes the addition of a fire hydrant out in front of the building. And then also toward the back of the 8 or so pages of the PUD plan is a drawing that shows a driveway at the rear of the building that's necessary in order to meet the fire code requirements. Essentially, fire trucks have to have access within a certain distance to all portions of a building such as this. And so a fire lane access road is necessary to be added to the rear of the building. I think there's a good visual within your packets that shows that. When discussing the Capitol Mall, it's very difficult to discuss without having a discussion about buffer yards that were put in place many years ago. Whenever the Capitol Mall in the late 70s was originally planned to be developed, there was an intense amount of interest from the neighboring residential area on how this might impact their neighborhood. And in the process of getting the Capitol Mall approved, the development approved, the neighborhood succeeded in having a number of buffer yards, or essentially one very complicated buffer yard put in place between the mall and the neighborhood. And this is a visual that's been created to show that. You'll notice the Capitol Mall, Dillard's wing of the mall over here to the left of the visual, and the single-family neighborhood off of Hobbs Road here to the right, Hobbs Lane, I believe. There's a number of different layers to the buffer yard that were put in place, starting with a wilderness area, essentially an area where trees are to be left. Then a strip that is basically a landscaping area, and then a strip that is only to be used as a driveway, and then an area that's only to be used as parking, and then after that the actual building of the mall can be there. There's also some buffer yards further to the south to the vacant lot that is next to the Red Lobster on Country Club Drive. That's essentially similar, an area where the landscaping has to be, and then an area where only a parking lot can be. And this was all put in place, again, to protect that neighborhood. You'll see the theater is at the very top of this visual right there where my mouse pointer is. And while there's no buffer yard that requirements have been put in place behind it, the theater addition does not encroach at all into the forested area that's behind the building, and purposefully so. Because I believe that the intent is to keep to not have an impact on the trees behind the building. I have a number of pictures of the theater. Here's the first one, a picture of the south side of the theater. This is essentially where the addition would occur within this yard area. The sign, Capitol Theaters, would be removed and a similar sign placed on the addition. So essentially their signage would be removed in order to build the addition and then replaced in a similar location on the new part of the building. Here's a picture, and I apologize, these pictures often don't show up very well on the screen, but it's a picture of the front of the theater, and again the addition would be constructed right there. I believe that's all I have for now. I'd be happy to answer any initial questions you may have.
Thank you, Eric. Do any of the commissioners have any question for Eric at this point?
Yes, I'm curious about the part of the building showing C1, part of the building, the zone line is right on the side of the building.
Yes, and that occurs on a number of properties in the city, and the stance has always been that if the property, a large portion of it is zoned PUD, essentially all is subject to a PUD process. So.
Does anyone else have any questions for Eric at this point? Shane, do you have anything at this point? Okay. Do anyone else have any questions for city staff? Whoever's presenting this case, would you please come to the microphone, giving your name and address for record?
Hi, my name is William Brunner. I'm the president of Paradigm Design. I reside at 7385 Gratian Drive Southeast, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on this project. I have with me today Heath Thomas, who's the regional manager from Goodrich Quality Theaters that can answer any operational questions, and Bob Wilkins, who's the manager of the Capitol Theater. It's interesting reading one of the comments that talked about, well, why are they doing this? And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I've worked with Bob Goodrich for 25 years and actually saw this theater back in 1999 when he first purchased it. It's been a long road. We've had a few opportunities or investigations over the years to update the theater, and I'm very excited that we're finally at the point here where we can do that. You mentioned the stadium seating. It's a really important thing in movies to have stadium seating. It just basically that's the paradigm. That's what customers expect. So that's a great opportunity to bring this building forward into the 21st century and create a first-class movie environment in all the auditoriums. So, as you mentioned, this does include that. The addition is actually one large auditorium, which is going to be a big screen, basically a 65-foot wide by 35-foot tall giant screen, which is another great movie experience to offer to the town. And in order to do that, there will be an elevator installed so that we can get the proper distribution of the handicapped seating and everything else. That's going to be a great room. It's going to have Dolby Atmos sound system, which is the newest thing in sound. It's going to be a wonderful auditorium. One of the existing auditoriums is going to be a VIP luxury seating house. We're adding a barrier-free family bathroom to the facility. We're adding an event room, party room. We're expanding the lobby, raising the ceiling in the lobby, all new concessions, and as you mentioned, the exterior design is getting updated. Basically, you're getting a new movie theater in town with this renovation. The seating is actually going down just slightly. What the owner is doing is positioning this building for the next 25 years. Basically, the building's been a great venue for a long time, but it's time to update it. That's what the project is doing. We did look carefully at the site and worked hard to make sure that the addition could go in what's basically the lawn area next to the theater and not impact the tree line. And that's what we've done. The drive behind the building will also just be right next to the building, basically in the lawn area, and won't impact, any of the trees behind the building. So I think the building will position the town for the next 25 years of movie going. The movie industry had a record year last year in revenues, and the way that was done was a lot of people being innovative and investing in their venues and updating them, just like this owner is doing here. There are other places where some theaters have fallen by the wayside, but it's typically because this type of project hasn't happened. So I'm excited to see it. I think the site plan and everything that we've done is tried to minimize any negative impact from the project. And if there's any questions anyone has of the technical nature, we are the civil engineer as well as the architect on the project. I think Heath. Sir.
I'm just curious, are you going to add on at all to the parking lot, or are you just going to use the existing parking lot?
We're just using the existing parking lot.
I know you guys like this, but I know we were out there a couple of weeks ago and we had to park over in the mall, which isn't going to hurt anything. I mean, there was plenty of parking, but sometimes when you add this new theater, it might be a little bit of a problem. But I suppose there's plenty of parking across the street. They'd just have to walk a little further.
That's correct. I mean, the owner would love it if every seat were filled every night. I mean, so obviously they're planning on having a higher occupancy rate. Right now, the parking lot's largely empty in many occasions, and we'd like to see that filled up a little bit. But
I would like to add, too, that we're glad that you decided to come to Jeff City and give us this extra thing to go to. It's very nice of you guys to do that.
is there any technical question about the plan?
No technical question. I just want to thank you guys for upgrading. My wife and I do go to the movies a lot. We go to Columbia a lot of times, the Ragtag, because you just don't get the movies here sometimes. But the theater in Fulton is really nice. I think that's a stadium theater. I don't know how they survive up there, but that's a nice theater. And Bob, you just got to come early if you want to go to the movie. You don't have to walk so far.
Exactly right. Now, did you want to say something, Heath? Again, from an operational standpoint.
Just Heath Thomas, 2205 Philo Road, Urbana, Illinois. Just to explain some of the amenities that we are bringing, or we do plan to bring. Mr. Brunner mentioned Dolby Atmos. That may not be something that many people have heard of. We've all heard of Dolby sound, but Dolby Atmos, it's short for atmospheric. Their new paradigm is, instead of having 7 channels, we'll now have approximately 42 to 50 channels of sound in the room, and we will utilize that in the large room because the room can do what's needed with that size of a room, that sound system. You can have birds flying over your head, trains running around. That's really what Atmos is all about, is more of an immersive sound system. As well as Mr. Brunner had mentioned, the luxury or VIP room. The one that we're doing in Champaign, Illinois, that starts next week, we're actually going to have recliners in that room. And we are looking at keeping that more of an adult, young child to teenage free for those that would like to see a movie without the distractions and have the recliner type scenario. We don't anticipate doing any extra food or anything, but that is something that we are looking at bringing to this location. Yes, sir. 65 feet wide. Yes, sir. You're very welcome. Any other questions that I could answer for you guys?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any other questions for the applicants this evening? Seeing none, is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this request Again, then I'd ask you that you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll move on. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this request? We'll see none of those as well. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this request that hasn't already done so? Don't see any of those either. Seeing none, we will now close testimony. Eric, if you and Shane will provide any staff reports or comments that you have at this point.
I'll let Shane go first.
In regard to engineering infrastructure and site plan review, the majority of the infrastructure does exist to serve the development currently. For stormwater drainage, all the drainage from the site does flow to an existing basin currently. It's northeast of the site. No additional pavement other than the fire lane access would be added, so stormwater impact would just be fairly minimal, just related to the additional drainage from the proposed addition. They have proposed to clean out the existing detention basin and restore it to function properly. Existing stormwater drainage system, as Eric had indicated, would be relocated around the proposed addition to the south and to the east of the building there. In regard to utilities, the only addition would be a fire hydrant proposed in the front of the existing building. Engineering staff would support approval of this request.
Thank you, Shane. Eric?
And I think I've gone over most of the details of the plan already. Really, about the only thing worth adding is the amount of forested area, essentially buffer between the theater building and the nearest residential area. On this screen, it looks a little small, but it amounts to about 150 feet of trees between this rather intense commercial use and the neighboring single-family residential district, which is far in excess of the buffer yard requirements for other developments in the city. Essentially, the addition to the building is in keeping with the character of not only the building style, but also the nature of the development, and Planning Division staff would recommend approval of the request. The recommended form of motion is at the bottom of the staff report.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Do the applicants have any problems with the items that city staff has outlined that need to be done? Okay. Seeing none, that shows that they're okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for staff at this point?
Just, I noticed in one of the letters that correspondence we received that they mentioned something about lighting, and I'm assuming from what you said, then there's no problem with the addition and the additional lighting. Or actually, I guess they aren't doing any additional lighting. Is that right?
I don't believe they're doing any additional lighting. Any parking lot lighting that may have been installed was done so before the zoning code standards for lighting, for outdoor lighting. I think that the letter might reference lighting from the sign, which could possibly be visible through the trees. I think I mentioned there's about 150 feet worth of trees. But the sign would be relocated from the building to the other side, so it'd be slightly displaced. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot other to say. Just to clarify, the sign, which is shown on this screen right here, which is located on the side of the building, would be removed. Then the building addition would be built, and then a similar sign installed on that same southern side of the new addition. So,
I have one question regarding the sidewalks. With the new addition, is that a deferred sidewalk again, or is there no requirement for
the sidewalks where?
Well, with any new addition, right, and within the city, or any sort of modification?
Yeah, this is really considered an outlot of the Capitol Mall, and it has no street frontage. And so there's really no sidewalks required because there is no street frontage.
Any other questions for city staff? I think, Eric, you summed it quite well with saying that the addition doesn't get into the buffer yards, and we're retaining that distance between the neighborhoods, and the signage is going to be similar to what they have there now, as well as the reduction in the number of seats will be offset so that they don't need additional parking. I think that kind of addresses some of the comments that we have from the two letters of correspondence. I think the only other thing that I saw in one of the letters was regarding trash and things like that, and that's a maintenance nightmare everywhere in Jefferson City right now with the way the winds have been blowing and all that, and I'm sure if it gets to be a problem, you guys will handle that with sanitation or something like that, correct?
Yes, we do have property inspectors, and when situations such as that come up, we do handle them on occasion.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff at this point? Seeing none, would like to see if anyone would like to make a motion, and I believe Eric says that he has got something outlined in our packet for us.
I would move that we approve the preliminary PUD plan, subject to any comments and technical corrections by the staff.
I have a second. Motion and a second. Any other comments or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Eric, refresh me. Will this go before the city council or anything like that? Do these gentlemen need to know any other meeting dates, times?
Yes, it will proceed from the Planning and Zoning Commission on to the City Council. The public hearing in front of the City Council is scheduled for May 19th at 6 p.m. in this room.
This is a preliminary PUD plan. Will they be coming back with a final?
No, the final PUD plan can be approved administratively by staff as long as it is in
Conformance with this?
conformance with the approved preliminary plan. So the final PUD plan would come to staff, and we would review it very similar manner as we'd review any commercial construction plan in Jefferson City.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot to ask. Completion date at the very best?
Well, the project, we're very far along full building drawings right now. Next month or so, we're hoping to go out bid. However, there's still, the mall property owner and the theater owner are still working out. It's probably going to be, originally we were trying to look for holidays this year, depends on how quick this is, it may not be built this time.
You think about a year is what you're projecting at this point? Yep. Thank you.
Usually, once we start construction, it's about 9 months.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Any other business? Do we have any reports from the Environmental Quality?
There was not a meeting last month of the Environmental Quality Commission, so I have no report.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Eric, do you have anything else for us tonight?
I'm afraid not, no.
Okay. I don't believe we have anything else to discuss, so I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.